will often point out the less than 1% of men that are CEOs as proof of the patriarchy, while conveniently enough ignoring the vast majority of men that are doing the dangerous, dirty jobs necessary to keep society moving. Everybody complains about the glass ceiling, but nobody talks about the glass basement. Nobody talks about the fact that 98% of loggers are men. 97% of coal miners are men. Plumbers, men. Oil rigs, men. Firefighters, men. Everywhere you see people dying to keep society moving forward, you'll see men. Why isn't anybody complaining about equal representation? 92% of all workplace deaths are men, and 95% of all military deaths are men, meaning men are more likely to die building society and also more likely to die protecting that society. Nobody thinks it's a little odd that women only want the jobs with air conditioning and pizza parties. Women want equal representation in the top cushy jobs that makes decisions for society, but they don't want equal representation in the dangerous jobs that sustain society. That doesn't sound like equality. That sounds like a slave class.
We do need men, though.
We don't need them.
We do.
No, because they're lesbians.
Who do you call to get your car fixed? A man or a woman? Your toilet breaks down. Who do you call?
So I fix my own car.
Your power supply. Who runs it? Who runs the infrastructure of society? Men or women?
Oh, at the moment, men, obviously,
Yeah,
the patriarchy. I'm obsessed with being
Right.
a woman in a male-dominated industry. I do all of my own carpentry.
Can we go back
I do all my own, like...
Right, but regardless of that, like, you agree that men run the infrastructure, so therefore...
Oh, at the moment, yeah, men run the world.
We need men.
On a wider scale, yes. On a personal scale, no. Because you don't need a man to provide for you.
We need men to run the industries that keep us alive and well.
Not necessarily, no.
So,
because I know female mechanics, engineers, carpenters...
But remember, that's exception. Like, those industries are, like, 99% male.
Yeah, but for now, we can change that.
Do we want to change that?
It would be over for all of these women if all men in the world decided they were done with them and were going their separate ways. Do you agree? Or do you believe they could still survive on their own? Let's dig a little deeper to find out the answer to this and see if women can actually be strong and independent without men. According to the innumerable instances I've witnessed in my own life and among the people around me, women who had a man who could provide for them typically ended up having a higher quality of life. Not so much if they were equally bankrupt. To be their parents' retirement plan and make their final days on earth as comfortable as possible, one of their children would have to make the ultimate sacrifice. Compared to a woman alone in the world without a man, depending on how many children she had, she might be able to manage rather well if one of them stayed behind to care for her, as long as the child brings in enough money each month to take care of and maintain that woman. The last woman on our list, a single woman without children who isn't wealthy, will struggle if she doesn't find a nice guy to use as her retirement plan. I've had the good fortune to encounter all of these kinds of ladies over the course of my life. And let me tell you something. If their children never achieve financial independence or success, most women are forced to live alone without a husband who has saved for their retirement. Additionally, all of these ladies are out of money if they choose not to have children and neglect to save for retirement. The last 40 years speaks for itself when your ex-partners decide to leave you and believe they can level up and do better. All three of these women, who are in their 60s and 70s, are essentially done. So when I hear women touting their strength and independence and observing career women delaying having children, I am aware that these women are not considering the long term and require a reality check, because there won't be a guy or children to provide a guaranteed safety net for the rest of her life if her finances aren't in order. An older woman will start to feel desperate. One of the most heartbreaking sights is an elderly homeless woman who was compelled to live on the streets. She'll likely receive assistance from someone or a government organization. But when you see an elderly woman sleeping on the street, it usually tells the tale. The majority of the time, it's because she remained stubborn to the end and thought she could have accomplished it on her own without being subject to a man's control and authority. That usually happens because many of these women, especially in this day and age, would rather struggle than have a man who would act as a check on her and prevent her from destroying the family. That is the reality I have observed regarding women who find themselves in difficult situations throughout the years. Other factors that lead to homelessness for some women frequently involve drugs, bad decisions they make for themselves, or just a terrible accident. I advocate not feeling sorry for women when you see them in difficult circumstances because of this. That was not unavoidable. Too frequently, people will say women simply because they are women without considering what put them in that circumstance or choosing to ignore it. Gents, I can assure you that if it were a man, you wouldn't care, so you must have ice-cold veins out here in the streets and quit feeling sorry for women who chose the struggle. Every day, homeless men are walked over by people who don't give a damn about them. I do it to prove to you that I am not a hypocrite. However, I react similarly when I see homeless ladies or hear a woman's sob story about her family's impending financial collapse. Since I know that they put themselves in that situation, I don't care and won't assist these people. You guys must be wondering how I'm able to be so callous. Well, I used to work for the government, and I was expected to listen to people's heartbreaking stories 5 days a week for a whole year. When you start to hear the justification for most of their stories about why they required assistance and how they arrived in their current situation, you begin to recognize trends in human behavior, and you see that the majority of them are simply not smart. The majority of women are where they are in their lives economically as a result of poor decisions they made as young adults that continued into middle age and beyond. You can believe me because I've repeatedly witnessed it happen. A prime example of this is when Tyrone causes a young woman to become pregnant while still in her teens. As you all well know, Tyrone won't look after the child. Next, this woman will become pregnant for Chad, giving birth to 2 children on her own without a father. Women act in this way because they lack long-term thinking skills. They consequently always find themselves engaged in conflict when a strong man is not in charge of them. Because men were there to care for and protect them, women could only have progressed thus far. We wouldn't have progressed this far if it weren't for that one thing. Men can live without women. If you look at it, women have harmed men more personally than they would have if the man had been left in his own ways. There are more broken homes and instability in the family as a whole because women drive the family to ruin. And it is fairly evident, even without research, that most single women are not excellent parents if you simply go outside and watch the children that they are raising. With these points, do you still think women can survive without us? Anyway, that's all for today's episode on Circle of Kings. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It motivates me to create more content for you. See you next time. Cheers.